Welcome back to the podcast. It's your girl, Jess Bergio, and I have another one of my favorite people on today for you guys. She is an old friend of mine, actually, from back in the day in San Diego. We were both in the industry together, and now she is in my world through the mastermind. She joined House of Influence, and after hearing more of her story and learning why she pivoted her career from the beauty industry into what she's doing now, which I'll let her share in a moment, I was like, we got to talk about this because this is the thing that I'm kind of known for now, is helping people through big pivots. Because coin the pivot queen over here, people were like, Jess, how you pivot over here? You do this, you do all these things. And I'm like, it's called being an entrepreneur. You know, when you see an opportunity, sometimes you pivot, sometimes you take that opportunity and it leads you somewhere else. So Megan, welcome to the show. How are you?
I am great. I'm super excited to be here. And it's just really cool how full circle it is that we're back in each other's lives.
It's wild. I know. Okay, so tell everybody, how did you come back into my world? Because I know that we're connected through social media. I know that we've known each other from a past life, but this is the kind of thing that it's sometimes hard for me to share how powerful, being visible is through either a podcast or through your social media platforms, that people find you maybe in a different season of life when you now offer something different that they might need. And that's kind of how we ended up back together again. So I'll let you kind of share that story.
Yeah, it's actually like such a crazy full circle moment because I assisted you when I was fresh out of hair school. And I remember I had always wanted to be someone that like had a fitness routine, and I just did not have my shit together. There was definitely a lot of alcohol involved. But I always remember I actually came with you for like a strong photo shoot. It might have even been your shoot. But I remember like watching you foil and like, this girl is so strong. She's so jacked. Like, you are somebody that inspired me to lift. I actually got a membership to Strong. I've had it all these years, and I would read it and I'd be like, I want to put that into practice. And I never did. Fast forward when I was finally back on Instagram, because when I left my old career, I took a break from social media and I started following you. And I was just like, I just have to tell her that she was like an inspiration to me just to even start lifting. But I knew that you had also had your own like pivot in a sense. And somehow we just started chatting about what you're doing with House of Influence. And that's definitely something I need help with, is being more visible. And it just felt like the universe, I don't know, it just felt like the universe made sure our paths were meant to collide again. It's really crazy.
It is really crazy. And that's what I mean about you guys. Like, so Megan doesn't even live in San Diego anymore. Where are you living now?
I'm in Atlanta.
Okay. So this is just what, these put me in my feels, because this is sometimes like the result you don't get to see because some people give up too quickly. Or it's like the little guy who's like digging under the dirt to the rock or the diamond or whatever, and he stops like right before he gets there. It's those moments where, there's been a lot of times where I've questioned my pivot and thought about the decision I made to step into a different arena by starting the podcast, by putting myself out there as a coach and a mentor, thinking many, many times in the beginning, who am I to be a mentor or coach to people? Even though when I looked back, like you just said, you had assisted me. So at some point I've been one for years. I've been in the beauty industry 26 years, and it was probably after year 2 that I got an assistant, and I had one almost every year. I got to maybe get a new one, or somebody new would come into the salon. I started teaching classes. And through that time, I discovered fitness again for myself in my mid 20s, and I started competitive bodybuilding. So that's what she's talking about, Strong Fitness Magazine. And I ended up getting an opportunity to work with Strong Fitness Magazine, doing some of their covers and hair and makeup for that. And then also being in the magazine itself, like she said. So it's crazy how opportunities happen when you chase things that are of interest to you. So anyways, circling back to how we connected to now, the power of social media. And I know a lot of people have so much resistance around being on there, and I understand that. That's why it's so important to have like boundaries and understand why you're using that platform. If it's just purely for entertainment, is it for building a business? Is it for networking? Is it for inspiration? It can be for all those things, but I know protecting my energy on there is super important. So when you popped in my DMs, I was like, oh my God, look at what you're doing. And I loved your vibe and your energy. And I'm like, this makes sense. And I was so ecstatic to see that you pivoted into fitness. So walk us back a little bit. So we're in the beauty industry. Your career is doing well. And where did this hard stop change come from?
Yeah, so I kind of pivoted out of hair. I was always in the beauty industry. Makeup was my first love. And then I got into doing like lashes, lash extensions, and then cosmetic tattooing, which is what I thought I always wanted to do. So I was living in LA with the business partner. We opened a cosmetic tattoo studio, like a little lash and brow studio. It was really cute. And then COVID happened. And my boyfriend and I were like, do we still want to live in LA? Long story short, we ended up moving to upstate New York. So my mom had passed away like a few months actually after opening my business. She passed away unexpectedly. And there was this tiny little seed that was planted of like, I don't know if I really care about doing this anymore, but I was like, I just opened a new business. I have a business partner. I'm navigating all this crazy shit in my world. Like, I can't even entertain that. So when COVID happened and I had to pause, there was definitely that feeling of like, do I even want to keep doing this? I don't know. But when we moved to upstate New York, I didn't know what else to do. So I was like, I'm just going to open a studio of my own. It was really easy to do. My boyfriend tattoos, so it was easy for me to find a place. And I opened my studio and everything. It was almost like maybe I needed to prove to myself that I could do it, because it was not too long into having my studio open and everything was going great. And I was growing to the point of like, do I need to bring somebody on? Do I need to expand into a new location? And there was just this, like, that little voice kept getting louder. And it got to the point where I felt like I was wearing shoes that were 10 sizes too small, full of rocks. I was like, this is not what you're supposed to be doing. I just wasn't fulfilled. And my boyfriend says, he's like, yeah, when you first started talking about it, I was like, oh my gosh, you're crazy. And then he was like, no, you were serious about it. Cause I just was so like, oh, this isn't it. And after my mom had passed away, I didn't know what else to do. I had a gym membership that was collecting dust. I had always wanted to lift, and something in me was like, go lift, just go lift. I was newly sober and I was like, yeah, I need somewhere for these fucking emotions to go because I don't know what's happening. And lifting was just, I got addicted to it. Like, I loved getting stronger. And for someone who's always struggled with body dysmorphia and being at war with my body, I stopped focusing on what my body looked like. And I was like, what can my body do? And getting strong was so cool. It was so motivating. And it just turned my world around. And I realized that like lifting has helped me feel so confident and capable in ways beyond the gym. It made me realize how strong I am. And I was like, I want this for every woman. Like, I want every woman to feel this. And I kind of went through, it was like a figuring out stage of like, what does this even look like? How do I turn this into a job? And eventually I came to the career path of like, I want to coach women and help teach them to become strong and love themselves from the inside out.
That's amazing. Okay. So then did we hard stop and quit the studio? And
Yeah.
how did that transition happen? Because I'm sure people are hearing the story and they're like, girl, like, you're talking to me directly. I feel like this to my core, whether it's something else that they're doing. So we need to know details. Like, I need to know
Yes.
details. Like, what was it up and like your boyfriend gave you the green light, or how did you guys like figure this out?
So yeah, I took my time with it. I'm very much like I need to sit with things and really be sure. I really need to be sure. So I remember it was summertime and I was going on these really long walks, no headphones, just with myself to like be sure. Cause I was like, if I do this, this is it. I'm not doing this again. Like, I'm not doing another career pivot. Like, this is it. You need to be sure. I had just put all this time, energy, money into opening this studio. And yeah, I finally one day like just had the courage and the confidence to say, okay, I'm going to do this. And actually at the time, it kind of worked out perfectly. I decided to close my business. I sold all my stuff to another girl who was starting her own career. And at the tattoo shop, my studio was in the tattoo shop. Their manager was leaving. And I was like, I can manage a tattoo studio. I helped run front desk of a salon with like 50 people. I've run my own business, no problem. So while I was going back to school, I was managing the tattoo shop part-time. So I was able to like, and I was living in far cry from San Diego or LA. Being in upstate New York, it's a lot cheaper. So I was able to like pause and breathe. I'm like, okay, I can survive while going back to school, but I'm also such an overthinker that I'm like, I can't just have one certification. I need to have like 3 certifications before I feel like confident and ready to launch my business. Looking back, I probably would have launched sooner and then just continued learning. But yeah, I took my time, got the certification so I could feel confident. I think too, like going from an industry where I worked in it for 18 years, I was such an expert and I felt so confident. I think I needed that extra confidence and those extra certifications to kind of give me that confidence to launch.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I know a lot of people probably feel the exact same way, right? Especially if you were overeducated in another arena in your last life or your previous business. And same for me, pivoting into podcasting came from a hard stop during COVID too. I had just opened my salon 6 months prior to that. And I remember thinking like, I waited almost 15 years to open the salon. Like it was like a running, not joke, but like I had had a shared space with somebody else, but it wasn't really my own salon. It was kind of like we both just fell into this space. And so there wasn't all that responsibility, but opening my own space. And then prior to opening the space, I had joined my first business mastermind. And so I was so grateful for the pause with COVID because I was like, jump. Like, this is your time. Like, this is where, you said you wanted to start a podcast for the last 2 years. You haven't done it. You're just watching everybody else. And so it was like, do or die time. And I was like, I'm not going to be one of those people who starts a podcast and then quits. So I recorded over like 25 episodes before I even launched the show because I had heard like most people don't make it past 3, 10, whatever it was back in the day. And I was like, well, I'm not going to be a statistic and I'm not going to be this. This is like such hairdresser beauty industry. Some of us are perfectionists. That's why we're so good at what we did. Like talk about cosmetic tattooing. You have to fucking be perfectionist. And same with hair. Like you got to be almost perfect. So, when I started the podcast, I remember thinking like, who am I? No one's going to want to listen to me. And I was like, start where you are. And so that's always my advice for anybody who, if you're listening to this right now, is how can you just start with what you know now? You don't have to claim to be any sort of an expert. And so like looking back on your journey, had we run into each other prior to that, that's what I would have said. Start with what you know now. You know enough to bring a friend to the gym and record yourself training that person, or bring your boyfriend, husband in, like bring somebody that like start what as we call beta testing things and seeing, do I like this? Do I like training people? Because sometimes we get into an industry or we start something thinking it's going to be different than it is. And so I've seen people get into the coaching space and be like, this actually wasn't what I thought it was going to be, or create offers that aren't actually what they want to be doing. And so for me, the podcast was a really fun way to like meet people, see what other people had done to get their success and change and career pivot and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, this is the best avenue for me to not only learn, but also share other people's genius with one day will be my audience, which now we're at almost 400 episodes and I can say I actually have an audience. So, in the beginning, things take time to grow and to evolve. But for you, there's such a passion behind why you're doing what you're doing now, which I think is one of the things that I dig out of people when they are thinking about choosing to pivot is I'm like, you have to be so rooted in this and you have to really have a strong why, because this is going to be like any other thing. It's going to have days where you're not going to want to do it, where it's hard, where it's difficult, where you have clients that are not your favorite. And we were just talking about this before we hit record. And it's so nice to be able to share that with other people and to know like, hey, just because I had a difficult client or just because I had a difficult day, whether that's internally for you or it was anything to do with a client, like this is normal. This is all part of entrepreneurship. And oh yeah, I had these issues in my past career as well. And so pulling from those moments, I talked about that on actually my stories this morning at the gym. I was like, I've been going to the same gym on and off for the last 20 years. And it's a very intimidating kind of bodybuilding gym. And I remember when I first walked in there feeling like, what am I doing here? But that environment pushed me, right? That environment pushed me to do more, be more, see what was possible. And so that's how, I think I came to decide on hosting these masterminds and creating, coaching packages. I'm like, I know what's possible because I've paid other mentors and I've worked with people. So did you ever work with a trainer, or did you work with someone who was also like an inspiration to you to kind of get you like to where you are now? Or did you kind of strong arm this all by yourself?
The actual heart of it, I think, was a lot of me strong arming it, but I pulled inspiration from so many people in my life that served as mentors that were the kind of people that went out after it. Like you're definitely one of those people. The salon owner, when I moved to LA, I was working at a salon and she was an incredible business owner and she pushed me in ways that gave me lessons that I've carried forward. My dad was his own business owner. So I've had bits and pieces, but that was one piece that was actually missing is I wish that I had a mentor. And while I was going through all of this, it was really just a lot of me and my own thoughts and a lot of journaling. But as soon as I was done with certifications, I started worked on finding a mentor because I knew, when you're in a salon, you're in that group setting and you have people you can bounce things off of. And that was what was really hard is I was like, oh, this is just me. I have to figure this out on my own. What are you talking about? And I think that mentorship is such an important piece. And that's why I'm so grateful to be in your orbit and what's going on with the mastermind. Cause I'm like, this is literally everything I have been looking for of a group of women who are kind of on that same path, because it can be really lonely and quiet and you get in your head. And when you have these other people and someone like you to guide us, it's like, that's where the magic happens for sure.
For sure. Yeah. And I remember, sitting in my first mastermind and I felt like the most underqualified to be there. I was like, I guarantee everyone's making more money than me. I'm sure I'm the dumbest person in the room, but from all the books you read, that's what they say. That's where you should be. So I was very confident walking in there. I'm like, well, I paid to be here. So like, I'm here. But I remember as each of them went up to the front, we had part of it was an in-person mastermind. I'll never forget this. I had this like seared in my brain. Everybody had to go up in the front of the room, introduce themselves and say like what their business was, but more or less like what is the thing they needed help from the room with? What did they think they needed the most help with? And it was wild to watch these grown-ups, we were all adults, have a hard time asking for what they needed. Some of them kind of knew they needed help with like multiple different things in their business. And then a lot of them knew there was stuff they didn't know, but it was like so interesting to watch people be so uncomfortable asking for help. And so that was one of the things where I was like, oh, this isn't just a me thing or like an industry thing. This is across the board a human thing. And I think one of the coolest things that we learned being in our industry is how many people we actually got to touch, not only physically, like literally touch, but be around. And so how many different stories have we heard? And so I think in the beauty industry, there's an interesting where we're kind of like segmented out. We don't really know what other industries are doing. And even back in the day, you didn't know what the salon down the street was doing. But now with social media, we can kind of see the inside workings of everything. And I'm like, business is business. Humans are humans. People will be people, like these sort of things are kind of universal. And I remember in that room being like, I do have a lot to offer. And I was so grateful to have been in that room because I was like, it gave me a chance to give value and to like sit at lunch with people and listen to what they were going through or talk with them. And I was like, I've been getting paid to do someone's hair, to do this other stuff for free all these years too. So I think that's one of the coolest things for you is like watching you step into this is, yes, you learned a new skill set to help people with, which is that part of the physical training aspect of it, but what's the mental part of it, of why they haven't shown up for themselves? Why do they keep getting in their own way? Why are they not allowing themselves to go to the gym when they say they want to? Why do they not think they're worthy of carving out an hour to do this? So walk us through like some of the ways that you are helping your clients kind of get out of their own way and start to look and feel better.
Yeah. And on that note too, that's one thing that I try to remember that I have that carryover from the beauty industry is that interpersonal connection. And that was actually one thing that helped me realize I want to be a coach, because that was my favorite part of the job, was the peopling and like having that like intimate connection. And I'm like, I am good at this. I love this. And I think what I bring to with coaching and helping people get out of their own way is, I think for everybody, but for so many women, we're so hard on ourselves and we hold ourselves to such high standards. And I think part of that is also society, there's all the things that we're just supposed to effortlessly do. And when you're so hard on yourself, it's easy to have that roadblock. You're like, well, I can never, I fell off again, so I'm just never going to do this. And then I can provide that space and that grace of like, hey, you missed a workout, but it's because this crazy thing happened and we'll get back to it next week. And I watch them start to soften. And then over time, they build that consistency because they're able to give themselves grace. It almost helps them show up more for themselves. Like it's been this really, my first year of coaching has been this really interesting, like I'll call it experiment. And I remember talking to my boyfriend, and I was like, it worked. The thing I thought would happen worked, where if I help people in this way, and then eventually they'll learn how to like, they still have struggles, but it's really about learning how to love themselves. Even if the weight isn't what they want it to be, they're still telling me, you know what? I love myself. I feel good. I feel strong. And it's really fucking cool. Like that's what keeps me going. But I think that's that missing piece of coaching. At least what I provide, every coach is different, but it's just helping people get out of their own way by giving themselves grace and starting to learn how to love themselves and stop being so hard on themselves.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So let's go back to the part where you just casually mentioned that you gave up alcohol and were newly sober at some point. Was there a shift for you? Because I know a lot of people are either sober curious or have dabbled with, giving up alcohol. Are you open to sharing a little bit of how that journey came to be?
Yeah, so I had for a long time actually been very sober curious and would literally like at night while I was going to sleep be on Instagram like looking at like sober accounts, because it was just this cycle. And I think a lot of times in the hair industry there's a lot of that's just a party industry. And it was, my weekends off were spent being drunk. I lived in San Diego, there's breweries everywhere, and it was a cycle I wanted to get out of. And with my mom passing, it was just kind of that wake up call of like, get your shit together. It was just like a switch had flipped. A switch flipped in so many ways when she passed. It was crazy. But I knew that it just was like, yeah, I'm done with this. And I did have a moment where I was like, okay, maybe I can start drinking again in a normal way. And I did for a little bit, for maybe like a few months. And I was just like, I never really even got drunk, but I was like, this isn't adding, this is just taking away. But I'm at a point where like I just don't even, my life is so much better without it. Like sobriety is such a gift that it's hard to imagine going back to that and thinking about the way I used to be, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there comes a point when there's things that we're doing in our life that are not serving us, whether it's drinking, smoking weed, whatever other kind of party condiments you like to use, but it's also scrolling social media or doing things that you know aren't serving you. It doesn't always have to be something as like easy or obvious as alcohol. I think we all know, the either bad habits we have that are keeping us stuck and stagnant and not growing in the ways that we want. And if it is alcohol, if alcohol is the thing that you feel is holding you back, it'd be good to work with somebody who has done it already. And that's another component I think you bring to the picture too is, I think it's important for people to know you can be fit and have muscles. Like I drink wine a couple nights a week. I still have abs and, have muscles, but I also came from an alcoholic like situation and family. So I'm very, very cautious with it. I rarely get quote unquote dry. I like a good glass of wine. It's like either I'm eating the candy bar or the glass of wine. I'm like,
Yeah.
which one do I want? And so if there's some balance there, but I know I can't smoke anymore. I know I can't do, recreational drugs anymore because that doesn't serve me. And when I was in my 20s, when I was starting off in the bodybuilding space, I remember pulling into the gym parking lot smoking a cig still. And I was like, I'm probably gonna have to give this up because they don't really go together anymore. Like, what do I want more? And I was like, if I'm gonna take this fitness stuff seriously, I better choose. And so I smoked cigarettes because that was very prevalent in our industry back then too. I smoked since I was like 14 years old, all the way till I was like, 25. And it just came to a point where I was like, this isn't adding anything to my life. And that's when I gave up smoking. Luckily, it's not cool anymore and there wasn't vapes around, but that changed the trajectory for me because I was like, now I feel like I'm back to being an athlete and I'm taking my body more seriously. And doing one thing like that for yourself has such a ripple effect. So I'm sure you probably started eating better and feeling better and like getting better sleep. It's just like these beautiful ripple effects from making sometimes one of the biggest, hardest decisions.
Absolutely. Like I didn't realize until after the fact how much I was adding fuel to the fire with drinking. Like I thought drinking, I was in a very low place in my life and drinking was like the way for me to like numb out from it, but I didn't realize it was just making it so much worse, so much worse.
Yeah, we have a couple of girls I think in the mastermind that are sober too. So Bree's one of them, and she has a really cool story. You guys should connect on that. Giving up alcohol for her was like a big deal as well. And I have actually a lot of friends who have become sober in the last couple of years. It's pretty inspiring for sure. But it also keeps me cautious of like, what are my goals? And for me, when you go so far as competing to the stage and giving stuff up for really long periods of time, and you can see what your body can do when you optimize for eating for yourself and training properly, like it's really exciting and fun to see the results. And so that was always inspiring to me to be able to like, set a goal, follow the plan, and like see things to the end, even though it was just for me. Like the awards, what were for me to say I did it. But I was talking about that again on my stories this morning about sometimes we got to look at the proof that we already have and the receipts we already have of the things we've done that have been hard to pull that your own personal confidence. Sometimes we want to look on the outside and have people tell us how great we are. And, both Megan and I got a lot of that in our industry from hair, right? It's a quick validation. You cut someone's hair like, oh my God, it's perfect. Color, tattoo, whatever it is. It's an immediate makeup, last night and day, right? But in some of the coaching aspects, and we were talking about this before we hit record, like same with training, it's not one training session and you have abs the next day, just like it's not one cheeseburger and you get fat. So it's like there's that blend of like it taking longer for the actual results, but knowing that you have done that for yourself, your clients can see the proof through you. And sometimes they have to borrow some of your belief before they have any of their own. And so I think, stepping into this space looked like it might have felt uncomfortable, but you are starting to own it a little bit more. And, coming into this mastermind, I'm so excited to see where you take your business in the next couple of months. What are some of your goals for your business?
Oh, what a great question. I think my biggest, obviously, I'm trying to build, you understand this, like being an appointment-based service provider. I'm trying to build something online so that I'm not tied to that. I want to have more freedom and flexibility. I want to be able to be coming home to San Diego more often, but I'm really trying to build I want to build a community for women, a place where it's just like positivity and everybody hyping each other up, and also where women can go to get strong. I just believe so strongly in like how magical lifting is. And I think more than anything, I'm just trying to create, I want to create this like little bubble. You know, you open Instagram and you're just inundated with like all this crazy bullshit, misinformation about all the things you need to be doing. And I just want to create like a little safe space away from that, that's just like positivity and celebrating each other. Like you're talking about, it's like we get that instant gratification with certain things, and this really is a long haul. But if we can celebrate even the little wins, that's how you build that momentum, and kind of doing that together. I'd love to be doing, I'm actually right now I do one-on-one coaching. I'm planning to launch group coaching because I want to also offer something that's like a little bit more accessible and kind of create more of that community. There's so many things. There's so many things. I want to write a book eventually. The list keeps going.
I love it. I love it. Okay, well, if people are listening and they want to learn more about how to work with you, should we just hop on Instagram? We'll put all that in the show notes.
Yes. Hop on Instagram. You can shoot me a message. There's a link in my bio for my website, but you can always just shoot me a DM. I'm always happy to chat.
That's awesome. So, okay, let's drop into the mastermind feels right now because I feel like you're really enjoying this group. And you were saying earlier, like the accountability. We have a really good group, you guys. Honestly, I'm quite just floored by how amazing everybody is. That I was really intentional about curating like this space specifically because I knew everybody individually what their needs were. And I was like, I have to make sure that these people can support one another. And that's, I think, the true curation of a mastermind is bringing like-minded people together that can support one another and actually mastermind with each other on each other's businesses, but through the daily ups and downs of like the week, right? We meet weekly, but we also have there's space in between of where things are happening. And, like she was saying earlier, sometimes it's quiet and lonely. And it's not just when it comes to your business, it comes to like life as well. And people who understand what you're going through both personally and professionally. So what are we, only like a month or so in? Like, how has it been for you so far?
Not even. And I love it so much. Like, I just so look forward to Wednesdays when we have our calls. It's like, I always leave feeling like I'm on cloud nine. I'm just like pumped. My heart feels so full. And I think part of it is like at this stage in life, like I have really great girlfriends, but I've been seeking women that are like at the same point, but even beyond, and that are inspiring me and that are doing really hard, scary shit. Because it's like you've said, as an entrepreneur, people don't always understand what you're dealing with. And when you're with other women that are dealing with what you're dealing in business, but also understanding how crazy this stage of life is and just all the things, it feels like I can sink in. It's like, oh, I'm safe and I can kind of like open up a little bit.
I love that. That's such an amazing way to put it. And I'm truly just so blessed that we have connected again and that you said yes to this and that you're getting so much out of it. I mean, it's just the beginning. We're going to have a conversation towards the end again, too. But you guys, I wanted Megan to come on the podcast because she's such a good example of, yeah, it's scary sometimes to think about pivoting and leaving something that you've known for years and years, especially when it's working, right? She was just saying her business was thriving. She rebuilt it all the way across the country and could have sat in that for the next 15 to 20 years and had a pretty, good life out of it. It was easy, but at the same time, when you have that voice inside, like she said, it starts off as like a little whisper, a little nudge, a little like annoying voice, but then at some point it ends up screaming at you. And that comes sometimes in the form of like physical pain. You like she was saying, she gave a great description with the shoes feeling too small. I mean, isn't there a rap song with that? Like Drake said something about the size. Anyways, so I feel that to my core because sometimes I look at where I want to go with my business and I'm like, why? Why do I have to go do that? Why is that mission put on my heart? Why do I have that download from the universe? And I do those same walks, like I call them clarity walks, where I have no phone, no headphones, no nothing. And it's just time to, movie meditation, walk and move that energy and see what comes through. And when you're in spaces with other people who can hold space, but also pour belief into you, show you what's possible, mentor you, sisterhood with you, you even got a client out of the room already. Like, I think that's so cool that Jacqueline's like stoked to be working with you.
I love it. We just had our call today, like our onboarding call, and it's like community is so important. And I think in this world of like technology, we've kind of lost sight of that. And this is such a special group. This is such a special moment in time. I know that I'll look back on this and like, wow, what a special moment that we're meeting like every week for 6 months. And like you said, it's just that like pouring into each other. And I think sometimes we don't know how important that is to have like, you need that tribe. We can't do this alone, especially like the hard, scary shit. We're not meant to do it alone.
Well, I mean, one, we're not meant to do it alone, and two, we don't have to. And that's the part where I think, again, like I mentioned, that room of people, it was men and women. It was almost 50-50 of like all of them had a hard time asking for help. And so I've always said, like, asking for help can be the your biggest flex in life. If you can figure out what you need help with, and sometimes it's okay to say, I don't even know what I need help with. I just need some help. I need some support. And no one's going to know that you exist if you're listening to your coach or you're a service provider or you offer anything that helps people. If people don't know you exist, if you're the best kept secret, you're not helping anybody with your gifts. And so that's why this mastermind in particular and this podcast is really about pushing you guys to like show up, to share your gifts, your offers, which AKA sell your shit. Talk about how awesome you are, how much you want to help somebody. What's the transformation look like? You know, not just speaking to pain points, but saying, hey, if you're sick of feeling like XYZ, I know I've been there. And this is how I've gotten from point A to point B. And now I'm over here. And this is why I'm so passionate about wanting to help you. You guys got to get more unapologetic about sharing that stuff, even if you feel like you're brand new, like Megan was saying. Like if I could go back to that past version of you and say to her like something that would encourage her to start showing up, I would say share the journey, document the process of what you're going through so people can start to like come along for the journey. It builds trust. It shows that you're someone that is, you know, doing the work. It's hard sometimes when you come out of the gate, all of a sudden you're like, hey guys, I'm now this, you know, it's like people don't know you from anybody else. And so if I can give any advice to anybody is like, if you are starting something new, if you're trying to discover a new path, even if you're not 100% sure about it, start to document the process, document why you're doing things or why you're passionate about them, because it helps build community because people see you in, they see themselves in your story. And so that's always such a great reminder too. Whenever I'm dabbling or thinking about something, I go online, I talk about it, I share it, I take, you know, I take kind of like cues from my audience or people and I kind of like pressure test. What are people interested in? Is this actually a viable thing? Could I make this, you know, because as you start to grow as an entrepreneur, you know, you'll have other opportunities presented like, hey, I know you do this, but could you also do this? And so that's where you have to get discerning, because I was even on a networking call this morning and one of the girls, she's been building Facebook communities for years, but now she's getting like brand deal offers and other things are coming her way. And she's like, both are really good money, both are really fun to do. And I'm kind of at this crossroads where I know I can't really do both well. So I have to kind of decide. And that was interesting to listen to somebody who's been doing something for 17, 18 years too, now have a new opportunity, but also seem scared. And like, it was a decision she was sitting with and we were kind of like all brainstorming together on this call. And so it's nice to know, but you wouldn't know those things exist and that other people are struggling with them if you're over there doing them all by yourself. So that's why I think, you know, even at times where I feel like, oh, maybe I don't have, you know, the means to invest in a mentor or a room right now, I know I need to, because getting to the next level is going to require that level of support. So whether it's you guys listening to podcasts like this or getting one-on-one mentorship, whether it's through fitness, mindset, coaching with business, like find your people and stay close to them. Most of them, like me, have free value packed podcasts or they have content they're sharing on social media. Make sure stuff on Instagram all the time too. Is it Wellness Wednesdays? When do you come on and do your lives?
I do a Monday message, and I missed this Monday because I was in San Diego, but yeah, I do a Monday message. And like you were saying, like, I think it's so important to have these groups because they hold up the mirror for you, because it is hard for us to like celebrate ourselves and see our strengths, and being something like this holds the mirror up so we can see what we have accomplished, and then also help give us that nudge of like, hey, this is what you should be doing, and putting you on that path the same way a coach and mentor would do.
Okay, so if you're listening and you have a friend or two who is like wanting to get into fitness, wanting to get like a coach, and the 2, 3, 4, 5 of you want to start a group program with Megan, I feel like you guys should reach out and be like, okay, I've got a gang of friends. Will you coach us all together so we can do this and have fun together? It's such a fun way to connect with your friends when you do challenges like this or you work with the same coach, because then you can hold each other accountable and you have someone here who's willing and wanting to start a group program. So this is those moments where like everyone has a couple friends that want to get more fit or want to do something. So you guys put your pod together, reach out to Megan, tell her, what do you got cooking? Let's put some plans together. Or if you're someone who likes to do one-on-one, like I love doing one-on-one. I'm a one-on-one girly. I want direct access to people. And I usually have my own set of goals. I train by myself. I've always had a one-on-one coach at the gym. I like one-on-one when it comes to like my mentorship as well. The masterminds also have served a huge purpose, but for ongoing, I like having one person that I'm checking in with. So however you operate, but I think the group coaching thing would be super fun for you to like beta test on some new people who maybe came through the podcast. So we'll have Megan set something special up for you guys if you're interested, but just DM her on Instagram. We'll put all of her info in the show notes. We got a call to jump on for our mastermind here pretty soon. So you guys, we got to go. But I will see you all next week on the podcast. Megan, I am so proud of you and so excited for this new journey and so grateful that I get to run with you. Any parting words for anybody who's like sitting on the edge of like making a jump?
So something my mom always said to me in the words of Joseph Campbell, follow your bliss. She has burned that into my brain and it's my guiding light. So if there's something you're unsure about and you think it's going to lead you to your bliss, follow your bliss. Life's short.
Oh my God. Thanks, Mom. That was
Yes.
beautiful. You nailed it. Oh my God, you guys. Okay, we'll see you next week. Go follow Megan. Love you all. Bye.
Bye.